As leaders, we all love it when we have a group to lead. Every leader I know loves to lead a full room, whether it's a small group or a large group of people. But at the same time, we can't forget that the Bible is full of stories about Jesus and the way he led, loved, and noticed the individual. He was focused on the one, and that's what we're talking about today on the GrowLeader podcast. As always, before we get started, we want to say a huge thank you to the generous partners who help make the GrowLeader podcast happen each and every month. The first is the Wesleyan Investment Foundation. For over 80 years, WIF has been helping churches and church planners with their borrowing and investing needs. Maybe you're out there right now and you're a pastor dreaming about how you're going to fund a new building project or other growth opportunity, or you might be at a place as an organization where you're trying to decide how to wisely invest and steward the resources you currently have. We really think WIF can help you, and you can learn more about them at wifonline.com. We also want to say a huge thank you to Great American Family. Great American Family is America's premier TV destination for high-quality family programming. It's programming you can watch with the entire family without having to wonder what's going to happen next. Great American Family is a part of the Great American Media portfolio of brands and is carried through all major cable providers. And you can head over to greatamericanfamily.com to get more information. And finally, we want to say a big thank you to Compassion International. Compassion International has been working to serve the world's most vulnerable children in the name of Jesus for over 70 years. They've helped over 2.2 million children, and they reach and serve every child and family through the power of the local church. That's why we love them so much here at GrowLeader. To learn more about Compassion International and to find out how your church can be a part, visit them at compassion.com. Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to the GrowLeader podcast, where we grow leaders that grow churches by helping them reach their full potential. My name is Matt, and with me, as always, is the one and only Pastor Chris Hodges, PC.
I'm very excited about what we're going to talk about today. This is really going to help some churches, and I can't hardly wait to get to the content.
It felt like it's a passion point for me, too, so I can't wait to dig into it in just a second. Coming off an amazing season here at Church of the Highlands. Yep. One of my favorite things, of course, 21 days of prayer and fasting was just unbelievable.
Off the charts.
You think it's the best one ever that we've had?
Oh, absolutely. And we had, just a huge response over the previous years. And I really think something's happening in the spirit, Matt. And I want to encourage all the listeners right now. Man, I really believe that we're seeing the first drops of revival falling in America. I really believe that. And in fact, it's been verified. I read this survey by Barna that just was done toward the end of 2022. And according to this most recent study, it says that 3 out of 4, 74%, 3 out of 4 people say they want to grow spiritually.
Wow.
Now, that hadn't been the case for a long time.
Right.
3 out of 4 want to grow spiritually. And then the same proportion, 77% of all Americans believe in a higher power. So they're thinking about God more than ever before. And then I love this one. 44% say they are more open to God today than before the pandemic, which means all of a sudden people are interested in God. There's this increased awareness about and belief that their life would be better if their lives were more spiritual. What a great opportunity for us to be focused on bringing the good news to our country.
And I think I've seen things that I didn't think I would ever see. I think, just several weeks back and watching that Thursday night game with Damar Hamlin and him getting hurt on the field, and watching not only the players pray for him there, but the NFL social media account saying we're praying for Damar. There was just this focus on prayer nationwide in that moment.
And I think there's a desperation, honestly, that has gotten people to the place of, it can't just be business as usual. So pastors, leaders that are listening to me, lean into that. Lean into the fact, stand on that stage knowing that people are hungry for God. If you'll believe it, they'll listen to what you're saying, and stats are showing that they're ready for some answers to their lives. So let's go for it.
We'll focus on prayer and you releasing your Pray First book, which has been just a huge help for so many here in our church. We actually have a listener question today, which is all about prayer. And if you're out there listening right now and you're thinking, hey, wait a second, how do I ask a question on the podcast? Go to growleader.com/podcast, and you can actually record your own voice asking us a question. And so let's take a listen to Vicky and hear her question right now.
Hey, PC, this is Vicky. Love the podcast and a big fan of the prayer guide you have. I've been using it for years. One prayer I would love to get kind of a model for or get your thoughts on is when you're asked to pray with a group of maybe family or work friends or something where maybe you may be the only Christian or not everybody there is believers. So I want to pray a real prayer to God, of course, but at the same time, I want it to be, winsome and understandable and maybe just draw in those who are far away from Christ. So I was just wondering if you could add that in to the guides or just give us some guidance on that.
Well, Vicki, thank you. That was a great question. And I love the fact that you are thinking about living out your faith in the middle of an area where there aren't people of faith. And I think probably the thing that I would share with you is make prayer as conversational as possible. I think what intimidates most people about prayer is they think they have to pray it in some kind of formal way, almost in a religious way, almost with a little, like a moan or, oh, Lord, like you don't. The more conversational it is, and if they can authentically see your love for Jesus and your dependence upon him. And so as simple as possible, as grateful as possible, and even the expression of your faith. So saying things like, Lord, I just love you so much. And God, what an honor it is just to come before you because of Jesus. And Lord, we have things on our mind that are so difficult for us. And God, because we know you care, we give them to you today in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. And making it that simple, that conversational, and to show how you're putting your faith and trust in Jesus, I think that's the key in those settings.
That's so helpful. I think we need to do that for all conversations we have about our faith. We can get stuck in a habit of using Christianese, saying things in a way that people don't understand. It's just a great reminder for all of us.
The Bible says pray without ceasing. Well, that's impossible unless you see it probably like your texting life would be with some of your closest friends or your spouse.
Yeah, that's
where you're like, hey, what's up for dinner? I'm on the way home. Oh, how are you? How's your day? You're sending off these one sentence texts all day long. What if that's what your prayer life looked like?
That's so great.
What if you were just saying, okay, God, I'm stepping into this podcast right now. I really need your help. Now, that was a 8-second prayer, but God heard it. And what it does is if you bring God into every aspect of your life and put him first in every aspect of your life, it's only going to make your relationship with God that much more dynamic and that much more real, personal. And that's really the goal. And of course, the book's done amazing, and churches are using it to do sermon series. We have sermon materials that pastors, if you're listening, you can preach these. The content that we put together, and of course use anything that we have. You never even have to mention my name. Just get people praying, and with the goal of not only shaking heaven and God hearing us and revival hitting our land, but there's nothing better to bring people closer to God than if they can have this every day, all day conversation with God.
So great. Excited about our content today. And we've just come out of a season where we've had so many people show up for 21 days of prayer and fasting, but also January seems to be a natural growth time for church. And so crowds are up, but you've really led us as a staff. And hey, guys, the room is full, but man, we really need to pay attention to people as individuals.
Yeah, and one of the challenges for us, Matt, and you know this, being a large church, is to only think in terms of that size, how many. And we do a lot of that. And honestly, I had to repent. You were there on our all staff that we did to end 2022. And I kind of said to the whole team, I'm kind of tired of saying and asking of you how many. And we came up with a new question, and that is who.
Right.
Who. Like, I don't want to know how many, I want to know who. And we came up with this phrase that we decided would be the rally cry for 2023 in an effort to really minister to people and bring a closeness to people that I think they're longing for, especially coming out of what we've been through the last 2 to 3 years. And here's the rally cry, and that is know the one.
Great.
Like, we want to know every person. And one of the things that I highlighted in that teaching is that, we talk a lot about leadership, and this is the GrowLeader podcast, and we talk about leadership, and clearly, the Bible does talk about leadership because leadership is influence, and God wants us to have an influence on this earth. But the word leader is not mentioned nearly as much, or the concept of leadership is not mentioned nearly as much as the word shepherd. Really, the most common phrase and the one that Jesus loved the most to describe the leaders that we're talking to right now is not leadership. It's being caregivers, shepherds, pastors, those who know. And I read this verse to our team. I'll just read it. I just love reading this verse. It says, be shepherds of God's flock. This is 1 Peter 5. That is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you're willing. I want you to think about every phrase, and this is really even good for business leaders, moms and dads, like shepherd them, pastor them, not because you must, because you're willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain. So I'm not doing it to gain something for myself, but eager to serve, not lording over those entrusted to you, but being, and here's the phrase again, examples to the flock. And then when the chief shepherd, and that's, by the way, how the Bible describes Jesus, he's the chief shepherd, we're under shepherds. When he appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. And on that day, I kind of thought about the role of a shepherd. I even looked into some of the historical and actual qualities of real shepherds, like guys who actually and gals who actually watch over sheep. And there's some interesting parallels and things to learn. And I'm going to give you 3 kind of principle-based things that I want our audience to hear. And again, you can apply this to any setting that you're in. This is not exclusively a church concept. I mean, we're called to care for the people that are under our care, right? And the first one is that a good shepherd knows the face of the flock. So they know the face of the sheep. Proverbs 27:23 says, know well the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Proverbs 27:23. And in the original Hebrew, when it says know well the condition, it literally means know that one's face. Like know not only who they are, but even what they're going through. And on that day, Matt, there's 2. These are so simple, it's almost ridiculous. Kind of practical applications to knowing the face of the people who come to our churches, knowing the face of your employees, knowing the face of your customers if you're in the business world. And that is get to know their name. Like every number, we said how many, well, what about their name? Every number has a name. And not only knowing their name, but saying their name, memorizing their name when you can. I hear people all the time say, well, I'm just not good with names. Well, get better at it. Because there's really nothing that is more precious to a person than to say their name. Yeah. It is just so good to see and then say their name. And it's a tough discipline, but it's something that we really need to do.
We, at Grandview at our campus, there's Tyler and Kelly. They come to the campus, and I told them when I met them, I said, hey, keep telling me your name until I say it to you first. And so Kelly, for 6 weeks, every Sunday she would see me, she would just walk up and she said, Kelly.
Yeah.
And it took me forever, but just giving them that permission, hey, it's important for me to know your name. You can call me out on it. Like, keep encouraging me to know your name. And it was fun for her, too, at the same time.
And not only knowing their name, but then secondly, asking them, tell me your story.
Great.
You know, one of the best people in the world at this is my friend John Maxwell. I mean, the brother, I've been in so many settings with him, and he is clearly the smartest guy in the room and the best leader in the room. And at the same time, Matt asks the most questions. So instead of, pouring out his latest revelation or what he's writing right now, and he's always starting a book, finishing a book, and actually, doing seminars on the one that just released. I mean, so there's a wealth of information. And honestly, when you're with him, we should be asking all the questions, and he will not let you do it.
That's great.
I mean, it's without fail. If I called him right now and said, hey, John, what's going on, and I'll ask him what he's doing, he will flip that so fast and say, tell me what happened this past Sunday. How's Tammy? What about the kids? What are you learning right now? And you're thinking, you don't need to know this from me. I need to be knowing this from you. And he has this discipline of asking questions. And then when he asks a question, watch it every time. Asks a follow-up question. Oh. So tell me your story. Okay, now what did you mean by that? Okay, now what city was that in again? And wow, how long have you lived there? And he just is so good at unpacking and unearthing the story behind the person. And honestly, if we want to get to know the one, and that is the theme here this year at Church of the Highlands, I'm going to tell you, and that is every person, every family. We're not looking at the masses. We're not even talking about the numbers. Now, we still know our numbers, but we're going to get to know their name, and then we're going to get to know their story. The second one is for those that are taking notes, and we'll make sure all this is in your show notes for those of you who are driving in a car or listening to this during a workout or whatever, and that is a good shepherd, watch this, wants more for them than they want from them. And I think a lot of times when we look at our people, I think we can't help but think, how, man, this is going to make our church larger. Man, the attendance is going up. Come on, if we're honest, the offering's going up. You know, and we're measuring those kind of things of what it does to help build the dream that we've had. Oh, we're going to reach Birmingham better with it. Oh, that's more people now that can serve on that next outreach. That's all fine and dandy. But what if it was like if they were truly convinced that we want more for them? Well, how do we do that? Well, we've got to make sure they know what we want for them. You know, when we had our Christmas service this past year, and we have probably the largest number of visitors of any event that we do in our Christmas services. I mean, my goodness, we did a lot of services, and we had a lot of people, double what our normal Sundays are. So let me just say it that way. And but in every setting, I made sure to tell them, hey, look, we're in a legacy season right now where we're ending the year giving towards some very important things that we're actually giving every dollar of it away. But if you're a guest with us here today, we don't want anything from you.
So many people comment on that. So many people say, it's the first time I've ever come to a church where they didn't ask me to serve in kids because my kids were there, or give to the offering, or do something like that.
We were talking them out of the offering. Hey, if this is your first time, we don't want anything from you. This is for those who call Highlands home. We only want something for you. And then telling them what you want. Man, we would love to see you find a church family. We would love to see your marriage strengthened. We would love to see a place where your students feel, you know, known and needed, and like we're building for their future with you, and just saying what you're for, saying what you're for. Here, man, if you made Highlands your home, let me tell you what we know would happen in your life. And of course, then we can offer that 1 year, give us a year of your life guarantee that if you really went all in, you would get every bit of that. And it's so very important.
I think it's easy to invite people to small groups, or to, you know, we have the growth track, whatever your assimilation process is at your church, and say it where you're trying to get people into that environment. But we're even trying to use language as campus pastors of, hey, if you're looking for a place to step out of an audience and step into community, Growth Track's the best place to do that, where it's always inviting. It's never, we want something from you. It's always for you, for you, for you.
Exactly. And so there are two kind of takeaways that I shared with the staff in that year-end all-staff meeting. And one is, so now we use the systems to build the people, not the people to build the systems. Yeah, so we're not, so again, and how do you measure that? Because you're not saying, well, how many did we have at Grow Track? Oh, we had 87. No, we didn't. Who did we have at Grow Track? How many of those were married? How many of those were students? And so now we're thinking, oh, wait a minute, we weren't just setting a mark for the event. No, the event existed to make a difference in students and marriages, et cetera. And then secondly, don't rush them through the process. And honestly, you know, I'm probably the most impatient person anybody's ever met. I always want everything yesterday, you know, so, and I know it. I'm very aware of that part of me, and I love processes. And I think, man, you could do it with efficiency, and we could do it quickly, and we can do it extremely well. And it takes discipline, and it took me writing this down and even saying it to our team, hey, slow down a little bit. I mean, don't slow down on our vision, but slow down on how long it might need to take for that person.
Right.
Like if they're ready to step into, you know, being on the dream team or serving, certainly we would love to have them. But can we just pause and say, how's life going? Are you going through anything? And if they mention something that is tragic or difficult, why wouldn't we pause and just pastor them through that before we got them passing out a program at the door, or parking a car in the parking lot, or leading a small group? Man, caring for that, and slow down on the process. One of the most processes that I'm the most proud of here at Highlands is what we call Infuse. It's the process that puts people in a worship service situation, or puts them on the stage.
Right.
So they're playing a guitar or singing on a mic or playing on some type of instrument. And I'm so proud of our team because they actually have a 7-month minimum process for somebody, no matter how talented they are, before we put them on a stage and shine a light on their face and say, hey, watch me. And I love that because it speaks to the fact that we care more about really not just the outer talent and the natural ability that they brought. Man, they might have some pipes and can blow, and everything in you wants to give them a mic as fast as you can. But we say, look, your character matters, and how things are going at home matter. And we even know, of course, that affects how well of a job they actually do with that mic in their hand, regardless of how talented they are. If their character is strong and their marriage is strong and things are going good at the house. And so I love the fact that there's that process for it.
And that process really functions as their small group. So the entire time they're in that process, they're in community, they're in relationship. You really get to know that person over that course of time. I know we're going to get into some very practical things we can do in just a moment, but I love, I mean, even for the leaders out there, this is so huge with your staff team and with your volunteers. It's easy to look at the people that are coming in that are new to your church.
That's good.
But you know, we have a large staff just because of our context here, but I can remember, you probably don't even remember this. I had just come on staff 11 years ago. My wife, Heather, and I were adopting at the time. And so I'm in North Alabama getting ready to go meet our son for the first time. And I get this text from this Louisiana number. It just said, hey, bro, praying for you. Hope everything's okay. I didn't have a clue who it was. I didn't know Chris Hodges knew my name, you know, like it could just because of where we were. And I was at another campus. And I was like, who is this? And he said, hey, it's Pastor Chris. You should have this number. And, man, the deposit that it made into me, really, honestly, the deposit it made into my wife, for the spouses to know that you care that much. And I've heard you tell guys over and over and over again, when you find out kind of as a second or third person that something's happening in their life, you're a little bit like, hey, bro, like, why did I not know about this? Why did you not clue me in and bring me into that? And you invite every single person on staff to make sure you're in the loop on the things that are happening in our lives. And it's a big, big deal.
Well, thank you. And I think it's important. And we do that more than people would imagine because of the size of our church. I mean, we still are very high touch. And one of the tools that, by the way, we're going to offer our listeners today are the 30 high touch principles and practices that we've been practicing here at Highlands for 22 years. By the way, happy birthday, Highlands.
That's awesome.
We just turned 22. And so, yeah, so we're going to offer these we call it how to create a high touch environment. And there are 30 practical things we can do. And I've been passing that list out and trying to live by it myself. So be sure to check out the show notes after you listen to the podcast. So if we're going to kind of be this know the one principally, we're going to know well their face. That means their name and their story. We're going to want more for them than from them. So, and then finally, a good shepherd is being shepherded, meaning you can't really care for people if you're not being cared for. And I think sometimes shepherds forget that we are sheep too. Like, I have to have somebody watching over my soul. I'm very blessed and grateful that I have 3 people who actively shepherd me, pastor me, that call me, I mean, every week, checking on me, praying for me. I have one guy that literally calls me twice a week. Tammy and I are sitting on the couch, you know, watching a show or something, and it's always late because he does his prayer time late at night. And he'll call us twice a week. We're sitting there, and he gets on the phone. He goes, hey, I'm going into my prayer time. What do you and Tammy need? And then we'll share whatever we're dealing with or going through or what pressures on our hearts and minds. And he'll pray right there, and he goes, all right, man, just know that in the next couple hours I'm going to be warring for that area for your life, and I'm being pastored.
As much as you're involved with leading leaders and leading pastors, and you were one of the first calls a lot of people make or the churches make when somebody gets in trouble or gets in a tough situation, how much of that would you attribute to pastors not having a shepherd in their own lives? Absolutely,
because what you want to do is you want to catch it before it needs that 911 phone call.
Will you tell them about cancer and discovery all over again, what you've told us so many
times?
Well,
yeah, so you know, cancer is harder to detect but easier to cure in the early stage.
Right.
But it's harder to cure and easier to detect in the late stage. So what do we want to do? We actually want to catch things earlier. Because it's a whole lot easier to catch. Here's the problem. It's harder to detect. Why? Because we think that this little nagging thing isn't that big a deal. Well, yeah, it is. It's pre-cancer. It hasn't metastasized already and growing in your body. But what would it look like if we were just a little bit better at saying, man, I don't think this is an issue. It might be, but we're going to deal with this. I'm going to confess this. I'm going to tell somebody about this and let them know what you're going through. And so bottom line is every pastor needs a pastor. And if you're listening right now and you don't have a pastor, well, you need a pastor. And you need to be in a local church. If you're a business leader or if you're a staff member, you don't even need an employer. You need a pastor. And you need someone who's watching over your soul. And then every pastor, senior pastor that's listening to me, I just met with a pastor earlier today. We, part of GrowLeader, we consult and coach churches. And this church is an amazing church, and we're definitely, through our relationship with them, going to help everything that matters to them grow this year as we lean in just to this one church and give them this consulting and coaching. But as I had my private time with the pastor today, he didn't have a pastor.
Wow.
And I said, my brother, you're going to need a pastor. You need someone. You need to find your tribe, and you're going to have a place, because you don't just need all these systems and all of these ideas that I'm giving you that are going to help your church grow. Man, you need it personally. And I shared with him ways that he can do that. And by the way, if you're interested in any type of those services with GrowLeader, it's all there on the growleader.com website. And we're happy to engage with your church as well.
And at a minimum, I mean, if you're out there and you're thinking, I don't know that I have that, man, do what you would tell everybody else to do. Get in a small group of people that really love you and care for your family and around you. I think so many times we can get stuck, in the effort of leading ministry where we're leading a church, but we're not a part of the church. And the way you always encourage us, hey guys, let's this is our church too. Let's be as in this as everybody else as we're leading.
And I have that. I have people speaking into my life. And by the way, if you're looking for a mentor, man, I'm happy to be one of the many that you'll need. We have I do a monthly mentoring with just a handful of pastors. It's the monthly mentoring with Pastor Chris, and so you can, again, find that on the GrowLeader website, and you can join this call that I do once a month where I do about a 20-minute teaching, and then I'm answering questions for 40 minutes, and we get into the weeds of church and actually to address every individual situation. So jump on the monthly mentoring that I'd love for you to be a part of. But in the last few minutes that we have, Matt, you know me, I don't ever like just principles, I like practices. So if you ever hear sermons or even us all staff, yeah, I'm going to teach you principles, but man, here's going to be some takeaways. Yeah. And so, that's what I do. So, and so making it practical, I won't be able to teach all these, and we should probably make an entire podcast on some of these because they're huge.
Right.
But our audience is pretty sharp.
The sharpest.
They can figure it out.
Yeah.
So let me give you 5. And I have to do some of these quicker than others. The first one is we are in the process of developing and employing right now a membership engagement system, meaning we are making massive improvements to our app and to ways that we can engage our congregation in their personal growth. And we would love for you to know about this. We're going to unveil it at this year's Grow Conference. By the way, there are just a few seats in our second location. The Grants Mill Auditorium is full. It filled up in 30 minutes, but we are offering a second location right here at the Grandview campus where you are the campus pastor, and it's going to be not a second experience. It's going to be it's going to be spectacular, but there are a few seats left here at Grandview, and we're going to unveil this membership engagement system and share it with others. The second is that I think in order to care for people well, there needs to be an increase of communication and information. Now, we prided ourselves in the early years of our church of we're going to leave you alone. We're going to leave you alone. We said for 20 years, this is the hassle-free guarantee.
Right.
Like if you get involved here, we are not going to bug you. I think people want to be bugged a little bit more than they used to. I think through the past 3 years, because of all the isolation and all of the things that people have gone through, I actually think they want, in an appropriate way,
right,
and in a way that's actually interesting, they want to be communicated with. They would love to hear. In fact, I have places and organizations that I'm associated with that are not nearly as important as the church that regularly send me emails that are actually very interesting. It only takes me 15 seconds to get the highlights of what they're offering me as a member of that organization. But they communicate more to me than my church does. And I thought one day, we're going to change that. We're not going to lose our hassle-free policy, but I think we've under-communicated and given information. And again, this is some tools that we're going to pass on to the churches with us.
And even one of the ways that you're planning on doing that, in fact, after this podcast recording, you're going to take some time, and we're even trying to get away from just graphically driven information on social media. So instead of just saying have a graphic, hey, small groups are launching next week, you're going to jump on and do a video. Hey, church, just heads up, small groups launching next week, because that's another connecting point to the leader of the organization.
Exactly. And the third takeaway in the limited amount of time that we have to make this practical, so we have our membership engagement system, we have the increase of communication and information, but the third is a focus on getting people back the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Now, without getting into the study and the research, there's a clear improvement in how well they'll engage, join, be a part of your church family if the visitor comes back the second time, even more the third time, even more the fourth time. In fact, it's so high, the retention of people is so high that if you can get to that point, really focus on that next visit, come back again. What would it take? And so without getting into the weeds right now, we certainly will in future podcasts and at our conferences and at our regionals, by the way. We're having Grow Regionals this year.
Yep.
That there are techniques and ways that the staff can engage the people who are attending on Sunday by asking them simply, hey, is this your first time? Hey, how was your experience? And then the things that they need to know and to do to come back the second and third time, of which, by the way, at the top of that list is being needed and being known. Like if you can communicate to that visitor, hey, I know this looks big to you, which make you feel unknown and unneeded. No, you are very needed, and we would love to know you. And that communication alone, added with children and student ministry, which I think is the biggest hook in the world right now, to get people to come back, them knowing what you're offering is huge.
And one of the things that we're doing and even exploring is this idea of getting away from hassle-free guarantee. Parents, when I go somewhere with my kids, if I want my kids to be involved, I don't want to have to go fish for that information. I want to have somebody make it easy for me. And so as a church, we're doing everything we can to make it as easy as possible for people to engage, still at their own pace, not rushing them, but saying, hey, when you're ready, here are all the steps that you need to take your next steps.
And I think I think it's changed too. I think back 10, 20 years ago, there was this, hey, leave me alone. I want to be anonymous. I think that's really changed.
Yeah.
I think people are so isolated, so disconnected, and they're actually expecting more from their churches in the way of community because it's such a void that's actually a space we can lean into more. The fourth one is very interesting, and it simply is this, and that is you can know the one practically by improving your responsiveness. And what I mean by that is to improve the speed with which you're responding to any inquiry. So if they're calling the church, sending in an email, whatever it is, even if they're asking a question, the world has, because of the iPhone and other technologies, the world has gotten used to instant information. If I want to know who won a basketball game last night, I can find that out in 3 seconds. Right. If I want to know who won the Australia Open, I can find. If I want to know the weather, I don't have to wait till the 5:30 to watch the news. No. I'm one click away on my phone to knowing everything I want. And that has trained people into, I don't wait anymore. I need immediate responsiveness. So there was a recent study out that is so fascinating to me of what the 1%, the top 1% companies, and in our cases, churches do differently. And the top response was responsiveness. So what they're expecting from the organizations that they connect to is, don't you dare wait to get back to me. And the standard, the old gold standard used to be 24 hours. And the new study says that if you respond within 24 hours, you still only have about a 1% chance.
Just crazy.
So 1 out of 100, you're going to get to keep that person who reached out to your organization. If you respond to them within 20 minutes, the number goes up to 60. You can get 60 out of the 100 to connect to your organization if you do it within 20 minutes. But if you can do it within 1 second or 60 seconds, 1 minute, it goes to 98%.
Which is crazy.
It sounds impossible to do, but there are ways that we can increase our responsiveness and get it as close to that 1 minute as possible, so that when people, again, are touching our organization in some kind of way, whether it be on a Sunday or between Sundays, we're not waiting around to get back to them. They're not going to wait. And it actually, I think it's one of the most respectful things in the world that we can do. And so more to come on this, because we actually put together a task force here on the Highland staff to solve the this study. I told the team, if that's what it is, I don't want to work hard to get 1 out of 100. I want to see 98 out of 100, and so we're going to have to get better.
Yeah, we're doing a whole lot of things that we'll share later on as we continue to figure it out. But I will say I've seen a tangible difference already. I mean, just to make it. Just the fact that responsiveness is a kind of a, hey, we're there quickly. And we would do that in pastoral care situations, but I mean with questions or information, and people so appreciate it because we're making it easy for them. And
it's a culture, and it can be done, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. And then the last one, and we'll have to close without giving much meat on this bone, Matt, and that is that we're leaning in more to what we call relational environments. And so we're taking more time right now, giving more time, and encouraging them to spend more time like in our lobby experiences and our hallway experiences, on our Wednesday nights when our services can breathe a little bit more with, having food trucks out there to make it the commute from work to church easier so they can come to church and get the food. Whatever it would take to serve them in a relational way, we actually think that that's important, and we're already seeing a major fruit from it.
I don't know who said it, but I heard it a long time ago. The longer the linger, the stronger the member. The longer the linger, the stronger the member. So we're always thinking about how can we make people linger more in the lobby, linger more outside, and share and have a community church where people know each other and learn to know each other.
So I think this is one of the most important podcasts we've ever done that, again, can be applied in every situation, and that is know the one, know the one, know the one. And my final statement I want to say to everybody listening is, and that doesn't start by telling your staff to do it. It starts with me.
Great.
I need to model it. I need to show it to you and our team and our church. And I think if we'll lead as leaders in this one area, I think it's a great way to grow our churches.
It's incredible. We could talk about this for 3 or 4 more episodes. Such a great thing for all of us to grow in. Don't forget, we will put the Creating a High-Touch Environment list in the show notes. Pastor Chris sends this out to us at least twice a year. We get it before every Grow conference, and we get it around Christmas time as well. Something we talk about all the time. And to find out more about all the different events, the things that are coming around the country, the monthly coaching calls, all of that, you can go to the website, GrowLeader.com. We loved being with you today. Thank you, PC.
Enjoyed it as always.
We'll see you next month, everybody.